Hello, welcome to another video. My name is Michael, and today we're going to be doing another cosplay breakdown, this time of Hayley's Durmstrang dress. So this is a dress that I created for Hayley for us to wear for our Beauxbatons Durmstrang kind of couple that we took to the kind of fake celebration of Harry Potter that happens in winter, one of the last events we were able to go to this year. I've always been frustrated by how the movies gendered the two schools because of course there were girls who went to Durmstrang also, just like my guy Beauxbatons guys went to Beauxbaton. And so we wanted to create a female version of kind of the Yule Ball costume that the Durmstrang boys wore to the Yule Ball. So that's the kind of the red military one with the cape and the claws. And so Hayley found this pattern, and so the pattern that we used for this one is the Vogue Vintage Model V8850. It's gonna be this pattern here. And so this pattern was a lot of fun to work with, especially this part here. I'm going to be taking kind of the pieces off in a second so that we can look at each of them individually, but it was a very interesting pattern to work with because of the decorative kind of gathers here. There's also the big gather that's down here at the bottom. And so I'm going to be going kind of step by step about how I created this look and some of the techniques I used and learned while making this costume. So first, let's start with the dress. I've taken off the strap and the cape so that we can see the dress itself in all its glory. And so, like I was saying, I think the most interesting part of this dress was going to be right here. So this piece, so this is a separate piece that is sewn into the top here. So it kind of fanned out, and that's all based on the pattern. I really made this dress to the pattern. I didn't have to make a lot of changes. I always do a mock-up in muslin the first time I use a pattern, especially for something that I want to be fitted. So this fit Hayley really well. And I always do a mock-up in muslin or calico or something like that the first time I use a pattern, because I really want to make sure that I can, one, understand any kind of weird kind of pattern things that are going on, and two, to make sure that the fit fits. It would really be frustrating to get to the end of a dress that you've worked really hard on and then put it on yourself or your model, in this case Hayley, and find out it doesn't fit. That'd be really disappointing. So I always do a mock-up to make sure that the fit is going to be good first. It's always worth kind of making the dress twice, because that way you know it's going to fit. It's really going to look good when you're finished. So the pleating here, so all of this stuff that's up here at the top, all of this kind of opened out. It was like this big fan that you kind of had to gather all together, and then this piece that gathered together. I had a lot of struggles with this part right here because it's just a very strange piece. It's supposed to create the illusion that there's one piece going all the way through that's kind of like a buckle or a bow or something that goes over here that then continues down into this long sashy part. And so this is separate from the dress. It's purely decorative. There are two darts right here on the side, as well as two matching darts over on this side of the dress. On the back, we can see that there's all these structured things to make the dress fit as much as possible, and all of this was on the pattern. I didn't really have to work a lot with it. Fortunately, the pattern was really great. It also has a zipper, and so on this side we see the zipper. I'm still not really good at putting in zippers. I've recently learned some good techniques for putting in invisible zippers, which I'm definitely going to be using more often moving forward. So this might be one of the last kind of traditional zippers that I put into an outfit, unless it really calls for it. But the side zipper really helps, rather than having it in the back, so that you can keep that silhouette going in the back. Which turned out really nice in the end. This was also one of the first items I made after Hayley got me an overlock machine. And so overlock, or a serger, that is a machine that creates a edge along the sides of your fabric. And so I can pull this up here, and hopefully you can see on the camera that the overlock creates this kind of seal on the side of your fabric. This fabric did fray. The entire thing is overlocked on the inside. And that really does help as far as last goes. I always, before I got an overlock machine, I used an overcast foot. and an overcast stitch or a zigzag stitch, and that really helped to finish off my edges. That way when this is kind of rubbing up against the body and the fray starts to happen, the overlock or the overcast protects the edges so that you don't have to worry about that. So I always recommend that for an unlined garment like this one is. For a lining, your seams are going to be protected so you don't have to worry about it, but for this, when they're exposed, you definitely want to do some kind of finishing to your seams. Otherwise it's going to disintegrate pretty much instantly and you might end up having to remake it, which would be very frustrating after all your hard work. So the red fabric we used for this dress is from Joann's. I'm afraid I actually don't remember what it's called and I don't have the receipt for it anymore, so I'm not sure what this fabric is, but we got it at Joann's and it turned out really well, kind of that deep burgundy red that fit really well with the Durmstrang outfit. So let's look at it from the inside out. So this is the dress from the inside out. You don't really get to see this very often, so I thought it would be helpful for people to see kind of what's going on the underside, because this dress did a lot of what my favorite things to do about sewing is kind of make the sewing look invisible, where the pieces just kind of fit together and it looks like they're not sewn at all. And this kind of reveals the illusion that's created from that. And so one of the things that I've never done before with the pattern is this neckline here. So this piece was just a thin little piece, kind of this V shape that went all the way around, that folded over because there's a seam. Oh, there's actually not a seam. Oh, there's a seam here. There's a seam on the inside of this over here that it isn't even finished. I didn't overcast this or anything because it's kind of lined, so it's protected there, so we don't really have to worry about it. But all that folds over, and so that piece goes all the way around, and it's also tacked down here with these two darts in the back, and so that keeps it down in the back. And I think it turned out really well. The shoulders, I mean, I didn't overcast that. Those are pretty well protected up there. I did do the overlock machine all the way around the armhole, and then here you can see the inside of the zipper. And so this whole thing is overcast and then or overlocked with the overlock machine, and then my zipper is there. So it's not a perfect zipper. I mean, these two pieces don't line up all the way. You can see how they're like maybe half an inch off there, but oh well, it works. The big dart here, this was on the underside of that kind of sashy part that came down. So there's a big dart, a big slashed dart that's right there, and then the kind of unusual pattern pieces here kind of came together. So this is kind of one pattern piece and then another pattern piece for the lining. It all fits together very interestingly. And then there are additional darts you can see from the inside, and that's what the inside of the dress looks like. When it came to hemming the dress, I really did not want to top stitch along the sleeves or along the hem of the dress. And so I used a catch stitch, and you can look up what a catch stitch is, but basically it's you sew one side of kind of the inside of your fold. So you would take one stitch kind of here on the very edge of your fabric, and then so you would do a tiny stitch, like pick up like a thread, very small stitch, and then you would go over and do another very tiny stitch, and just kind of go on and on and on like that. This was a lot of hem to hem on the dress, as well as the sleeves. So the sleeves are also hemmed using a catch stitch, and then the sash part here, all of this was also hemmed by hand. I thought it was totally worth the effort because I really didn't want to top stitch kind of glaring at the very bottom of this gown. I wanted it to just kind of end, just kind of disappear, so that, and looking at it, you're not thinking about all the construction that went into it. You're really thinking, wow, that's just really pretty, and it's just like kind of just folds up. It just looks I think it looks a lot better. I thought it was totally worth the effort. So I really recommend practicing a catch stitch if you haven't tried it before, especially when it comes to unlined things like this. So I found it very helpful. Next, let's talk about the cape. So the cape went through a couple of different iterations before we were happy with it. I draped it out several times in muslin and then tried that on. I then took the fabric I was working with and kind of created just a big rectangle. It looked good on the dress form when we tried it on, but when Hayley actually put it on, it looks like it was just a big blanket because this is pretty heavy, thick fabric that was just kind of draped on her arm. It wasn't working. And so I just kind of put it back on the dress form and kept cutting and cutting and cutting until the shape was something that I liked, and that actually turned out to be more like a half circle. So hopefully this is all in the frame, but it's really just a half circle. So it starts over there and then goes all the way down to here. But then I left this piece kind of as like an extended panel out here so that it could tuck under the belt. And then I left the rest of it kind of not with the panel kind of continuing down so that this notch would fit right in the back of the belt. So I'll show you how that looks in a second. But that really worked, just because then we could fold the panel over the belt, and that way it would stay in place without needing a bunch of pins or anything. It really just stayed in place all day. And Hayley wore this dress at Universal Studios basically for a full day, and then we wore it again at C2E2. So it was very comfortable. She's also very cold-natured, so having thick fabric like this was really helpful for her. So this fabric was actually gifted to us by Shannon Fabrics, and it is the Luxe Cuddle Glam in gold. And this is the most interesting faux fur I've ever worked with. You would think that it would be really matted, like it's like a fleece that's been painted, but it's not. This is the softest material ever. It's so nice to work with. It's the best like faux fur I've ever worked with, because so often, like when I made my Mordu costume, there's just the hair flies everywhere. It's crazy. With this, because it's got that matted appearance, it doesn't feel matted. It's not crunchy at all. It's so soft. But because it's kind of flat, when you cut it, it's just kind of like clumps that come off rather than individual hairs. And so I found this a breeze to work with. I was so happy with it. I love the gold against the burgundy. And then like when you fold over the trim, it just looks so glamorous, and the way it catches light. So this was a delight to work with. Just kind of cut my corner there, kind of a mitered corner, and then I did a machine stitch all the way around the edge here. So I didn't bother with kind of the hand sewing techniques. I just went with machine because this is so thick. It just covered up all the stitches anyway, so I wasn't really that concerned about it. So the half circle is definitely what worked better than the square, the rectangle, and it also helps the drape work a lot better. So now let's talk about accessories. So the claws I want to mention first. So these two claws up here, and then the larger claw that's on the outside of the cape, these were all printed, 3D printed by EZB SVS Studios. And so he got these for us, and what we did was painted this one silver. These were printed in black, so they didn't need to be painted or anything. And all I did was hot glue a safety pin to the back of them, so they became something that we could just attach to the costume. They have kind of sewing holes designed into the pieces, but we just decided just to go with hot glue so that we could take it on and off. That way, if Hayley wanted to kind of wear this red dress for something else, because it could definitely doesn't have to look Durmstrang, she could wear this just on its own, so we could easily remove them. We just thought that that was more practical, so we kind of turned them into little badges. But they're perfect. They're exactly like the ones in the movies, so if you're looking to do a Durmstrang outfit, check out EZB SVS Studios and get more information about those. Next will be the belt, and so this belt is actually a kind of a relic. So Hayley found this on eBay, and so this is like an old military belt. You can see on the underside where kind of the original belt buckle was here. She used this belt for her Zoya the Destroyer cosplay from the Netflix series Glow. So she was using that for this outfit. But what we did is EZB SVS Studios again created a Durmstrang belt buckle, and so that one matches the ones from the movie. And so what we did was first use an epoxy to glue, because it's the belt buckle is curved, but this is flat. And so what we had to do was use an epoxy to glue the kind of the cover onto the metal of the kind of vintage belt. And then we used just an air dry clay to fill in the edges. It's not a perfect job, it's not perfectly clean, but it's good enough for our purposes, and it worked really well. And so we could kind of mimic the look of those Durmstrang guys with their straps and their belts and things, but making it more feminine with the beautiful dress and the kind of the belt there. So Haley also got some brown gloves off of Amazon. They were a little light for what we wanted, and so she took some brown paint and just kind of darkened them a bit. So this was Angela's leather paint, and that way they just, you know, look a little more winter, a little more Durmstrang, kind of this militaristic look. And so these kind of arm length gloves worked really well with the costume. She wore the gloves a second time. So when we wore up to C2E2 is when she added the gloves. And we thought that that was just a nice touch to make it look more Durmstrang, more military, and more like a cold winter wizarding school. So looked great. And then she also wore these boots, and so these are just Fry boots that she had anyway, had a heel on them, and she said that they were very comfortable for her uses, so they looked really well and kind of created that military look that we were looking for this costume. And so putting it all back together, this is what it looks like. And I want to show it from the back so you can see the drape of the cape, and just looks great. I love the way it looks from the back. I think this notch that we added to the cape really helped, and then it just kind of falls down so she can twirl in it and spin, and it's not quite so bulky looking because it's really kind of draped in this pretty way while leaving the back exposed, like it's just casually draped over the shoulder without it being this great big heavy thing. And so that's how I made Haley's Durmstrang dress. Hopefully taking you through the steps. If you wanted to make something similar to this, you could. We're gonna be linking like the pattern, the Luxe Cuddle Glam, and some other stuff in the description below, so check that out. If you have any other questions, please feel free to comment. If you like this video, give us a like, and let us know if there's any other costumes you'd like us to do breakdowns of. Haley's been telling me for a while I need to do Doctor Strange. I think that video would be like between 5 and 10 hours long because his costume is so complicated, but you know, if you want me to do it, I'll do it. So yeah, leave some comments below if any of our costumes that you want to see. You can check us out on Instagram. The links for those will be downstairs. If you enjoy this video and you want to see other cosplay, wand, Harry Potter content, give us a subscribe. Keep the magic alive, and we'll see you next time. Bye.